Welcome to the very first Red on Air. It's great to have you along. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to be covering all things touring. We're going to go through the boards, paddling technique, what to take with you on your paddle session, have a look at paddles, and of course, some question and answers from you guys out there in Facebook land. So get comfy, get yourself a drink, and let's get this show on the road. Hello, welcome. So every 2 weeks, we're going to be doing one of these Red on Air sessions. And we've got some great topics coming up over the coming months as we get towards the Northern Hemisphere summer season. I know so many of you are still paddling through the winter, which is great to see. We're going to be covering off topics like where to paddle, how to paddle, and how to get the best out of your equipment. We're also, hopefully, restrictions allowing, going to be patching in some guests from on location and also bringing them into the on-air studio here at Red Paddle Co. So let's get chatting about touring. So the Voyager, the touring range in Red Paddle Co. Product range. I know a lot of you guys have already been on this board, have got this board, have been trying these boards out. It's the V-hole really that sets these boards apart from anything else we've ever produced from the touring range. And I'm going to go across the major details of this board before we look at how to paddle them. So let's cut to the chase. Let's go straight to that V-hole. So if you look underneath the board, you can see there's a very pronounced V that runs from the nose of the board and tapers out as it goes back through the rocker line. This is the thing that really sets this board apart from the other Voyagers we produced in the past. It cuts the surface tension on the water, it gets the board moving at great speed as you're coming along and you're touring, and that nose runner there really helps cut through the chop. But as you'll see, it tapers off, and what that does, it maintains the stability in the mid part of the board. If you had this V-hull running too far back, you'd end up with a very, very unstable board. So we've managed to maintain a stable and fast board with a great V-hull shape in the front. As you go towards the back of the board, you can see the twin fin, the two fins on the back of the board there. That is what's giving you great drive for those two fins, but also allowing you to get to shallow water because you can get away with a shorter fin. So the length of one fin basically can get split into two fins, and you can be paddling through much shallower water with the twin fins. That twin fin and the V-hull makes the 13.2 Voyager, which was already a very fast board, an even faster board. It's one of my favourite boards to paddle. It's so quick and just glides so well through the water. On the deck of the board, we've made a few changes. Just put it down. So you've got your handles here, 3 handles. These side handles often get asked, why have you got side handles on the board? Well, they're there to help you, again, break that surface tension. You lift the board out of the water. Often, with a touring board, you're on a river, on a canal, you're on a different type of waterway, you've got to lean over a riverbank to pick the board up. If you put your hand on the middle of the board and lift it up, it feels sucked down to the water. This side hand just allows you to release that surface tension, and it's easy to grab the board out of the water. We've moved these handles well out of the standing area now, so when you're standing on the board, you're back here. You've got plenty of space to move from the middle of the board to the edge of the board to get nice and comfortable on the board without getting in the way of these handles. You've got multiple cargo attachment points. These boards can be loaded up fully with gear for multi-day paddling or long days of paddling, both on the back of the board and the rear here, but also on the front. And George will cover us a little bit more information about these bungees in a second. And then on the front, you've got your carry handle, front and back carry handles with D-rings. So again, you can attach your leash on at the tail and also any lines on the front of the board. And you've got a camera mount on the front as well, if you want to record your sessions with your GoPro. So that's the touring boards, the 12.6 Voyager and the 13.2 Voyager. Again, they all come with the board bag and the Titan 2 pump as well. That's the boards in theory. Let's see them in practice and in action out on the water.
Awesome. We've got adverts, we've got John talking, and now we're in this technical zone. So welcome to this first episode of On Air, as John said. It's great to be able to have these chats. I know many of us are in lockdown. We're probably all feeling a little bit and flat at the moment. I'm hoping some of you can still get out in the water. And actually, that was the plan in some of these sessions, and especially as we go into the summer months here in the UK, we're hoping that we can do some of these more technical driven sessions out on the water. But today, I'm going to be doing it in the showroom, and we're going to be looking at paddling technique. Now, feel free to throw in any questions into the comments if you're watching this live, and also if you're watching on demand, awesome. Throw them in the comments. We've got the whole team here ready to respond to those, and we'll also do our best to fit them in. We've got a Q&A section at the end, and John and I will have a 2-minute quick fire, as many questions as we can fit in. So yeah, let's get cracking into a bit of technical sessions. Though before I start talking about paddling, I'm going to talk about going out. I mean, right now it is blowing an absolute hoolie outside. I mean, literally the doors are shaking here at Red HQ. And so if you're in the UK, you're probably experiencing something similar right now. So it's really important that you prepare your sessions. One, get really accurate tide weather information, goes without saying. But something we're going to be covering in future on-air sessions. We're going to be bringing experts to really dive into some of that weather and that tide information that we have. The other thing is about what you're wearing and what you're taking with you. So let's talk safety first of all. First and foremost, is of course your leash. So making sure that you have a really good leash, checking both the ends, checking the Velcro sections, making sure that that's not going to come detached, because that ultimately is going to keep you attached to the board. It's also worth thinking about current. If you're paddling on a river, then we'd recommend a waist leash rather than an ankle leash, so you can quickly ditch the board should you have to. Which brings me on to my next point. The PFD. So again, if for any reason you have to ditch your board, or you're just away and you just want to rest, then the PFD waist belt or jacket you can wear, and ultimately this is the red original one. It just clips around your waist, stays out of the way, but when you need it most, you can just pull a toggle and that's going to inflate, and you're going to be able to have a nice life jacket should you need it. So essential piece of safety kit. Now, that goes without saying that you should have that kit, but at this time of year, a bit chillier, especially in the evenings and the mornings, you want to think about layering up when you paddle. So you have options to take a few layers off if you're getting too hot, or if you do fall in, or if you just get a bit chilly, the wind picks up, then you want to have a few layers. Red original top I'm wearing, built for paddle boarding, loads of flex in it, loads of material. It's got thumb loops, so when you're paddling, you keep your hands nice and warm. And also the active jacket as well. So a shell I always take out at this time of year. Now, the question is always what you do with something like a coat, maybe even a pro change jacket or a toweling robe so you can keep nice and warm and dry at the location you're paddling to. And for that, you want a really decent dry bag. This is our 60-litre roll-top dry bag, so you look loads of capacity in there. And on the Voyagers, actually, just a quick tip. You want to put your big duffel bags or your big dry bags under the first elastic strap, and then your smaller dry bags or cargo just in the front 2 straps. That's going to give you the best amount of traction onto the board and keep your bags nice and secure. So, you're ready. You've looked at the tides, you've looked at the wind, and you've got your kit all ready to go. So you want to get out there and go paddling. This is going to be a really quick 101 into paddling technique. Again, any questions on any of the kit? Any questions on what I'm about to say? I know there's some really good experienced paddlers watching. This isn't going to dive into the real specifics of the paddling technique. It's just to really take a step up, especially for those of you who may have bought a touring board or are looking at getting a touring board this season to take your paddling to the next level. So I can jump up, hopefully, and keep my head in shot. That seems to be working, that's good. So here we are, stood up on the Voyager. And when you start to paddleboard, if you've got an all-round board especially, and you're taking your first few strokes, you're going to find that you're probably going to be most stable paddling with your paddle at like a 45-degree angle. So rather than upright, it's a 45 degrees, which is great. It gets you moving. You start to build momentum forwards. However, as you want to get more out of your paddling and you want to progress and get a bit more speed out of each and every stroke, then that's where you want to start to look at this stacked paddle concept. So a stacked paddle is effectively a vertical paddle where your bottom hand and your top hand are aligned on top of one another. That way, when you're paddling, you're forced to put your paddle in further forward, so increase your catch, and then you're going to pull the paddle back. And a lot of people always ask, which way should I put the paddle in? Because it's kind of like a duck foot. you want to be putting it so the kick is away from you on the blade. So as the paddle comes close to you, or the blade comes close to your feet, as you pull that out, there's absolutely no resistance on the blade at all, and you're not using any energy through your triceps to try and pull water up to the surface, as it would be if the paddle was the other way. So let's put that into practice. If I'm on my board, rather than having my left hand on the left-hand side of the board, I'm going to bring that left hand over to the right-hand side of the board. That's going to keep my paddle nice and stacked and vertical, and then I'm going to take a big reach forwards, pushing away with my bottom hand, and I'm going to pull then the paddle towards me, bringing it no further than my feet. So, I hope that helps. I hope there's some useful tips in there. Hopefully when you can get out there, if local legislation and regulations, of course, restrict paddling right now, please don't go out until it is safe to do so. But when you can get out there, try messing about with your paddling technique, drop us some questions if you have any, and yeah, we're going to switch over to Alex. He's going to talk us through how to maintain the paddle and how to keep it going for as long as humanly possible.
Hi guys, Alex here, and I'm in the paddle zone. This week I'm going to be talking to you about how you can keep your paddle in good working order throughout the paddling season, and also if you're getting your paddle out from a winter of storage, how to assemble it and put it together. So let's dive right in. First things first, I'm going to put my paddle together. I'm going to take my handle section, which may have an anti-twist groove running down it, so it's worth keeping an eye on this for when assembling and adding it in to the middle section. The middle section is separated by a top clamp and a bottom clamp, and these can be identified by the top clamp being larger and having 2 screws, and the lower clamp being a little bit smaller and just using 1 screw. So I'm going to open up this top clamp and slide my handle in, and this is where that anti-twist groove comes in place, because it's going to click in place if I twist into the nodule inside, and I can drop it down. I can then shut the cam lock shut, nice and secure, and it's always worth checking the 2 screws are nice and secure, so you may want to tighten these before you hit the water. Sometimes they can come loose over a few paddling sessions, particularly if it's been away in storage. I'd recommend using some thread locker at the start of the season, because that will help keep it in good working order throughout the paddling season. Next, I can open up my bottom cam lock, same lever, and then my bottom section can go in. This consists of a push pin that I'm going to use my thumb to press in, and that's going to slide nicely in place, and I should hear that push pin click into the opening that's on the paddle. I can then close this lever closed, snap it shut, and again ensure that screw is nice and tight before I hit the water. Now, throughout the paddling season, guys, it's really important to keep these sections nice and clean. When you hit the water and you're disassembling and having your paddle, it can sometimes build up salt and grit, and it's really worth just cleaning down with fresh water after each paddle. If you find that your paddle's become a little bit stiff, it might mean that it's got some salt or some grit in there. So it might be worth just opening the handle, pushing the push pin in, and just giving it a bit of a twist, and that will alleviate any of that salt and grip. And you may find that it's really stiff, so get a friend to help you to pull it apart, and then give it a clean, pop it up against the wall so every excess water can drain off, and you're good to go for the next session. So the next thing to consider is if you have a lever lock system in the top. Now, this consists of a lever within the handle that tightens a bung at the bottom, and you may find that's either too stiff or too loose when you first go to use it at the start of your paddling season. So you can adjust this lever, the tension of it, by adjusting this bolt that's on the bottom of the lever lock section. So worth having a play around with that to secure it's nice and secure and the required tension that you need for your paddle. Those are my top tips that you need for hitting the water this season. Hope that helps.
Thanks, Alex. That's some great information there about your paddles. And that's going to move on now and have a look at more detail into the different types of paddle available and why you might choose one over the other. So there's a few things to consider when you're looking at a paddle. And the first thing is blade and blade construction. So in the red range, we have 2 different types of blade construction. One, which is a nylon blade, which is like this. And then we have a composite blade, which is like this. And there's a few differences between those two, and I'll tell you what those are now. Basically, nylon blade, super strong, super durable. This is the kind of paddle you want to use if you're on rocky ground, rough conditions, or if you want to give the kids the paddle and they're going to dig some sandcastles on the beach and you want it to still be in one piece when they've finished. The nylon blade is so good for that. You can literally smash this on the ground, smash it into anything, and it's going to be very, very durable. It's a little bit more flexible, so it's not the highest, not the fastest paddle, but obviously the advantage there is in the durability side of things. The composite blade is basically the opposite of all those things. So it's a little bit more fragile, a little bit more care is needed when you're looking after it, so you don't really smashing this against the rocks on a rocky shoreline or a river. I wouldn't give it to the kids to build sandcastles with either, but it's a stiffer paddle. It's not rock solid stiff. It still has some nice flex in it, so it doesn't kill you completely with all your muscles, but it just has a nice bit more rigidity and stiffness to it. So when you're paddling, you get a little bit more speed out of each paddle stroke, and you go a little bit further. So if you're covering long distances, and you're pretty sure you're not going to hit the rocks and crash into things, the composite blades are a great choice. Then you've got to think about shafts, and shaft construction can be a little bit of a minefield. I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. There's basically, in our range at least, 3 different types of shaft construction. I'm going to get the third one out here now. So this is an alloy shaft, aluminium shaft, and often aluminium paddles are at the lower end of the price range, so great if you're on a bit of a budget. Super strong, so again, great for kids paddles because they can't break them. You tend to have an adjusting section at the top, which is also an aluminium shaft, and at the bottom there, aluminium shaft, and normally a nylon blade with an alloy paddle. So great, durable, all-round blade and shaft. And then you have what we call a carbon 50 shaft. And a carbon 50 shaft is really, exactly as it says, it's 50% carbon, 50% glass fiber. So it's lighter than an aluminium shaft. So you get more performance. It's less tiring to paddle because it's lighter. So when you're moving it through the water and through the air every paddle stroke, it's less weight to carry. It's more durable than a full-on carbon shaft, which I'll come on to in a minute. So it's a great combination when you get a nylon blade. A nylon blade with a carbon 50 shaft is pretty much our biggest selling paddle for all the reasons I've mentioned. Durability, but a little bit of extra weight saving and performance as well. So that's the carbon 50. And then the top of the end of the line, you have our carbon 100. And the carbon 100 shaft is just exactly what it says, 100% carbon. It's much, much lighter. It's a little bit more responsive, so it's got a little bit more energy to the paddle stroke, but it does need looking after. And if anybody's ever used carbon fiber before, it is a fantastic material, but it does need care. Carbon fiber is basically woven like a bit like a chain. So if you break a link in a chain, the whole of the chain is not so usable. And carbon is very similar. So if you get dinks and dings in your shafts, you need to be careful that they haven't affected the integrity of the shaft as a whole. So carbon 100 is a great shaft, lightweight, more dynamic to paddle with, feels more energetic in its paddle stroke, but you do need to look after these paddles, and that goes for all carbon paddles. Anything made out of carbon. I'm a big windsurfer as well, and windsurfing carbon masts need to be looked after in a very similar way. So get a paddle bag, look after it, and it will serve you very well for a very long time. So that's your basic makeup of paddles. Choose the one that's best for you, for the best location that you're going to be paddling in, whether that is rocky shorelines, rocky rivers, and get the shaft ultimately the best you can afford and that you can look after. So a nice carbon 50 shaft for all-round paddling is what we generally recommend, and again, is our biggest selling paddle. So hopefully everything we've gone through there has been useful and been a good introduction to our on-air sessions. We're going to bring George on now. We're going to have a look at some questions, if there's any questions that have come through. If we don't get to answer all the questions live, then we will, of course, go onto the comments section and fill those in once this has gone onto our Facebook page. And, of course, you can watch this again later if you want to go back and overview any of the content. So I'm going to get George in. I'm going to get a stool and sit down and have a look at some questions, if there's any come in. How you doing, George?
Yeah,
you all right?
very good. Yeah, here we go. So awesome, great to see so many people tuning in for our first episode, and I think someone did ask it, and John just covered that off, that all our episodes, so this is series 1, episode 1 effectively, and all the episodes will be available to watch back on demand as and when you like on our Facebook page, hopefully forever, but you know, that depends on Facebook.
That does depend on Facebook, yeah.
So a couple of questions that have come in on our UK page. First one, I can ask you this question actually, John.
Go on then.
Greg has got 2021 13.2 Voyager.
Yeah.
Just saying, what optimum pressure should he be aiming for? He normally punts it to 20 psi, but should he be trying to get it up to more like 25 psi?
Cool, Greg. Well, great question, Greg. So actually, pressure is an interesting topic, and it's kind of self-leveling to a point. So lighter weight riders don't need as much air in the board. Heavier weight riders obviously are putting more pressure down for the board and creating more bending moment in the board. So of course, higher pressure would be great for those guys. But I would say, yeah, 20 is a pretty good place. 18 to 20. I would say you should go above 20, 21 psi. You don't gain a huge amount. All you do is just spend more time pumping up and less time paddling. So I would say 20 is pretty much spot on there, Greg. You know, you can try it, go a little bit higher, but yeah, I tend to run my boards at about 18, 19 psi. I'm in in kilos, I'm about 78 kilos on a good day, 80 kilos on a bad day. So after Christmas, yeah, 85 after Christmas probably. But yeah, so you sound like you're bang on the money there.
Yeah. And another one from Stuart, and I think I hinted at this in my bit, but in terms of the ATB Sherpa backpack system, taking that bag then with you on longer distance paddling, what would be a tip for keeping that dry on the water?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's a few moving parts, like the wheels in it, for example. So you can actually roll that bag up from the wheelbase up, and then secure it potentially with the board strap that your board is held together when it's rolled up, and you can just put that on the deck of the board. Obviously, it depends how wet you think you're going to get. So if you're just cruising on flat water, I'm more than happy just to keep that bag sitting on the board under the bungees. Of course, you can put them in a dry bag as well to keep it fully dry, and that's what I would recommend if you were going on particularly rougher water or you're expecting a lot of rain. A dry sack or dry bag. You can roll up the ATV pretty small, and it can go in that bag. But yeah, I would rough water in a dry bag just to cruise up the river to the pub. I just roll it up and stick it on the deck of my board. It doesn't matter if it gets wet. Just if it does get wet, just wash it down with some fresh water when you're finished.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on that, if you do wrap the bag around the new Titan 2, if you've got the 2021 board, actually even with the Titan 1, it does just fit in that 60 litre roll top dry bag that I had on the board earlier. So it's a bit of a squeeze, but it does work. And as John said, the zips are the most important thing. They're the biggest moving part on the bag. And so just make sure you just flush those through with some fresh water and dry them off. And hopefully you'll be out there touring and getting to the other end and packing away as well.
I got one that came from email actually earlier on in the day, and we find it here. 2 seconds. It wasn't from Raymond actually. No, it was from Andy. And Andy says the twin fins on the Voyager. Do I need to think about using different fins, bigger fins? What do you think?
To be honest, every board that we put out into the world is very heavily tested by not just me and John, but also the guys here in the office and many paddlers. So we do a lot of testing, and that's why we supply the fins that we do. So I would say that unless you have a serious tracking issue or a problem or very specific requirements, so i.e. you're paddling on very shallow waterways, then I would suggest that actually the 8-inch touring fins that come with the Voyager are absolutely bang on in terms of tracking for the majority of environments. Some people may in time either decide to cut those down or get shorter river fins if they're paddling very shallow sections, but otherwise, yeah, they're perfect.
Cool, perfect. Question come in on our US site. It's about stock by the looks of things. So Chris, you're asking how is the inventory situation this year compared to last year? Great question. Looking to purchase a red board in the spring. Yeah, the demand for red paddle boards particularly is extremely high. Actually, through the winter, we're seeing very high levels of demand, but there is plenty of stock coming into every market around the world. We're shipping boards to around about 60 different markets around the world. So every month there are drops coming in. So I would recommend you talk to your local retailer. I know a lot of them are in and out of stock due to the demand, but many of them are running pre-order campaigns. So if you want to grab a board, you think you're going to grab a board in the next 6 to 8 weeks, it's worth getting in contact with your retailer now, putting a name down on a list, and so they can either confirm they've got that coming, or they can place that on order and make sure they get stock for you. If you go to our website and go to the Find a Shop, you'll get a whole load of listing there. If you are still struggling, can't find a shop that has stock, then please just send us an email, team@redpaddleco.com, and one of the team will be in contact. So in the US, it will be Raminta and the team over there, and in the UK here, we have Alex and James and Ross and the team helping out on that side of things. Any more from your side?
Yeah, I'm going to do some quick fire because I reckon we've probably got about a minute to get through as many questions as we can, John. So the shortest answer possible, but I'm going to start with your specialist topic, clips.
Yep.
And someone's just got hold of a deck bag and just saying that they're just trying to clip it on and off the board. Is there any advice for getting the clips on and off?
Yeah, the clips are quite stiff. I get it on the dry bags, on the deck bags, ideally because we don't want them to come off. I've been looking around, see if we've got one. I haven't got one to hand, but we'll see if we can get one in a minute. But the clips have the little nifty little system. And actually, they're a standard sort of pinch clip. But if you push the gate of the clip out to the side, it will then flip up onto the top of the clip, and you can just pull the whole thing off. It sounds a bit odd, but what we'll do in the comments, I'll post a video link in the comments to that, and explaining how those clips you can use those clips differently. It is possible to make it easier, just a slight change in technique.
Good. Right, we're going short fire now.
Sorry, that wasn't very quick fire, was it?
That wasn't not a quick fire, but
No.
it's good.
Sorry.
Mark Couch. Hey, Mark. How you doing? Just asking, are the bungees on the front removable on the 13.2 Voyager?
Yeah, so the flat bungees on all the boards are removable. You can change them up, you can do different things, you can do whatever you want with them. Doesn't matter. Mark, I know you're a man of massive adventures, so if you want to get on there and hook up all kinds of straps, go for your life. D-rings are there to be used.
And then a couple of very quick questions, I think. Danny is just saying, we don't currently do any covers for the 13.2 voyages. Is that something we're looking at doing in the future?
Possibly.
And
very political answer, politician type answer that.
And Stuart just asking if we do any repair kits for the roll top bags, if you've snagged them on anything.
No, but actually the material in your board repair kit actually works really, really well. So you can use that on the inside of the bag if you were to snag it. I mean, the bags are very tough, but if you did snag it and things happen, then actually the repair patches in your board repair kit, service kit, are great for using on the inside of the dry bags.
They are starting to come in, so great to see some questions come in. We'll do our best to answer them after this chat. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And next episode, so in 2 weeks' time, we are going to be bringing in Justin Packshaw. So he's an adventurer. He's been using Red Paddle Code boards actually as a training tool. So he had a bit of an injury and he was just using it to get back up to full fitness. And yeah, Justin is an amazing explorer. If you haven't heard of him, then tune in. We're going to do a specialist adventure show in which we discuss with him his latest expedition, which is kite skiing across Antarctica, looking at the ice shelf there. So he's actually sponsored, or in partnership, I guess, with the European Space Agency, and he's going to be looking at the ice shelf. So a huge adventure in which he's going over 2,000 miles on, literally kite surfing and some skis. He's been using paddleboarding to get fit for it, as well as dragging tyres. He's done all sorts of amazing things, gone up Everest, gone to the poles, north, south. He's literally done it all. So really excited about that conversation.
Awesome.
Getting any questions for that, and we'll be doing that in 2 weeks' time, tuning in at this time.
Yeah, so again, if you're watching this on demand, you've obviously worked out that you could go to our Facebook page and watch this. But if you want to watch this again, you're watching this live and you want to go back and watch again, it's available on the various Facebook pages that are run for the brand. So Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada, and the UK and European pages. So go back and have a look on those. If you've missed any details, I got a message from Ronald last night in San Diego, California, who was otherwise disposed this morning. I think he was getting his COVID vaccine actually this morning, and he wanted to go. I'm not going to watch it. What can I do? And I said, Ronald, no issues, mate. Just head to the Facebook page, and you can watch it at your leisure later on. So, thank you very much, everybody, for joining in on this first Red on Air. As we say, it's going to be happening every 2 weeks. That's the plan going forward, with lots of different topics. And as George mentioned, the next one looks really exciting. So, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.